I've always prided myself on having a life most people envy. A stable job, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and a wife who, on the surface, seemed to have it all together. Emily and I met in college, our connection instant and intense. We built our lives together, brick by brick, or so I thought. Our weekends were filled with laughter, shared hobbies, and the occasional getaway to keep the romance alive. I worked as a marketing executive, climbing the corporate ladder with determination and confidence. Emily, a real estate agent, seemed to flourish in her career, always the life of any gathering, charming clients and friends alike. But lately, something felt off. Emily had become distant, her smiles less frequent, her laughter more forced. I brushed it off as the usual stress of balancing work and home life. After all, we both had demanding careers, and I understood the pressure she faced. One evening, after a particularly grueling week, I decided to surprise Emily with a home-cooked dinner. I had taken up cooking as a way to unwind, and tonight's menu was her favorite: steak, roasted vegetables, and a decadent chocolate dessert. As I set the table, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. When Emily walked through the door, her demeanor was colder than usual. She barely glanced at me before heading to the bedroom. I tried to ignore the nagging suspicion growing in the pit of my stomach. Maybe she was just tired. As the night progressed, the silence between us became unbearable. I attempted to engage her in conversation, asking about her day, her clients, anything to bridge the widening gap. But her responses were curt, her eyes avoiding mine. It was as if a veil had been drawn between us, and I was left grasping at nothing. Later that evening, unable to sleep, I decided to check our shared online accounts, a habit born from mutual trust. What I found shattered the illusion of our perfect life. Multiple transactions at a high-end casino, lavish gifts, and numerous messages from someone named Marcus, a name that didn't ring any bells in my otherwise well-organized world. My heart pounded as I scrolled through the messages, the truth sinking in with each passing second. Emily had been hiding something significant. The evidence was undeniable, and the realization hit me like a ton of bricks. She had been unfaithful. As I sat there, processing the betrayal, a whirlwind of emotions engulfed me. Anger, hurt, disbelief, all tangled together in a storm I hadn't anticipated. But beneath it all, a spark of confidence remained. I wasn't going to let this destroy me or define our marriage. The revelation of Emily's infidelity left me reeling, but I wasn't about to let it consume me. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Confidence had always been my anchor, and now more than ever, I needed to hold on to it. Determined to uncover the full extent of her betrayal, I decided to follow the trail. The transactions at the high-end casino and the mysterious messages from Marcus pointed to one person: Vincent Marino, the charismatic owner of Marino's Casino. Vincent was a name I recognized. He was notorious in our town for his lavish parties and questionable dealings. Emily and Vincent's connection was no secret among certain circles, but I had always dismissed the rumors as mere gossip. One evening, I dressed sharply and drove to Marino's Casino under the guise of a potential business opportunity. The casino's grand facade glittered under the city lights, a beacon of opulence and excess. Inside, the atmosphere was electric, filled with the sounds of clinking chips and lively chatter. I navigated through the crowd, my eyes scanning for any sign of Emily. After what felt like an eternity, I spotted her in a secluded VIP lounge, laughing loudly with Vincent. She was dressed provocatively, her behavior a stark contrast to the composed professional I thought I knew. My stomach churned, but I kept my composure, watching as Vincent leaned in closer, their conversation growing more animated. I waited patiently, observing their interactions. It wasn't long before Emily excused herself from the group, slipping into a private room with Vincent. My heart pounded, a mix of anger and hurt swirling within me. I knew I had to confront her, but I needed undeniable proof. As the minutes ticked by, the sounds of muffled voices and occasional laughter drifted through the door. I took a deep breath and knocked softly, the resolve in me unwavering. The door swung open, revealing Emily's flushed face and a smug expression that immediately set my nerves on edge. "Well, if it isn't the perfect husband," she sneered, her tone dripping with sarcasm. To what do I owe the pleasure? I stepped inside, my eyes never leaving hers. We need to talk, Emily. She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms defiantly. Oh, please. What is it this time? Another one of your self-righteous speeches? Her dismissive attitude only fueled my determination. Cut the crap, Emily. I know what's been going on. The casino transactions, the messages from Marcus, it all points to you and Vincent Marino. Her facade faltered for a split second before she quickly masked it with hostility. You're being paranoid. There's nothing going on between me and that sleazy casino owner. I shook my head, pulling out my phone to show her the evidence. Don't lie to me. I have the messages right here. Her face twisted with anger and embarrassment as she tried to snatch the phone from my hand, but I held my ground. I saw everything, Emily. How could you do this to us? She laughed bitterly, a harsh sound that echoed in the room. Us? You think our marriage was anything but a joke? I've been miserable, and Vincent knows how to make me feel alive. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Not only had she cheated, but her contempt for our marriage was more profound than I had ever imagined. Her words stung, each one a dagger to my pride and heart. As the gravity of the situation settled in, I felt a surge of clarity. This wasn't just about infidelity. It was about her disrespect and disregard for everything we had built together. My confidence remained intact, even as emotions swirled within me. I deserve better than this, I declared, my voice steady. It's over, Emily. Before she could react, I turned and left the room, the weight of the betrayal heavy on my shoulders. But beneath the pain, a sense of empowerment began to grow. This was my moment to reclaim my life, to rise above the deceit and heartache. Leaving Marino's casino, that night felt like stepping out of a nightmare. The cool night air did little to soothe the turmoil brewing inside me. Emily's harsh words echoed in my mind, each one a reminder of the life we'd built, and how she'd so callously torn it apart. But amidst the pain, my confidence remained unshaken. I was determined to navigate this betrayal with the same resolve that had always driven me. Back home, the house felt emptier than ever. The once comforting silence now seemed oppressive, filled with unspoken accusations and lingering resentment. I took a moment to collect my thoughts before deciding on the next step. Revenge wasn't something I'd ever considered, but the seed had been planted, and I knew I had to act strategically. The following day, I immersed myself in gathering evidence. I accessed Emily's emails, social media accounts, and financial statements, meticulously documenting every suspicious transaction and communication. The more I uncovered, the deeper the deceit ran. Vincent Marino wasn't just a fling, he was systematically undermining our marriage, leveraging his influence to manipulate Emily into his web of lies. As I delved deeper, I stumbled upon a series of encrypted files on Emily's laptop. With my technical skills, I managed to bypass the security, revealing a trove of incriminating evidence. Hidden away were photos, intimate messages, and detailed plans that painted a damning picture of Emily's duplicity. It was clear she had been orchestrating this affair for months, if not longer. But the most shocking discovery was yet to come. Buried within the files was a document outlining a plan to siphon funds from our joint accounts into offshore accounts controlled by Vincent. It wasn't just an affair. It was financial sabotage aimed at destabilizing our lives. The realization hit me hard. Emily's betrayal was multifaceted, targeting both my heart and our shared future. Emotionally, I was a whirlwind of anger, hurt, and determination. The initial shock had morphed into a burning desire to reclaim what was rightfully mine. I couldn't let Emily and Vincent destroy everything we'd worked for. My confidence surged as I formulated a plan to expose them and ensure they faced the consequences of their actions. That evening, I confronted Emily again, this time armed with irrefutable proof. She was lounging on the living room couch, scrolling through her phone with an air of entitlement that infuriated me. When I walked in, her smirk faded slightly, sensing the change in my demeanor. "Emily, we need to talk," I said firmly, holding up my phone. "I know everything." She looked up, her eyes narrowing. "Oh, great. Another lecture from Mr. Perfect." I ignored her sarcasm. I have evidence of your affair with Vincent Marino, and your attempts to undermine our finances. It's over, Emily. Her facade crumbled, revealing a flicker of panic before she masked it with defiance. You're blowing things way out of proportion. Vincent and I are just friends. Friends don't steal money and lie about everything. I retorted, my voice steady. I've documented every move you've made. It's time to face the truth. She stood up abruptly, knocking over her glass in the process. You think you can just ruin me? After everything? Her bitterness was palpable, fueling my resolve. I knew this confrontation was only the beginning. Emily's deceit had far-reaching implications, and I was prepared to expose her at every turn. As her anger subsided, replaced by a cold resignation, I knew it was time to take the next step towards reclaiming my life. That night, I began drafting the divorce papers, each word a testament to the strength and confidence that had always been my cornerstone. This wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about holding Emily accountable for her actions and ensuring that her betrayal wouldn't go unpunished. Revenge wasn't sweet, it was necessary. As I prepared to serve her with the documents, I couldn't help but feel a sense of empowerment. The path ahead would be challenging, filled with legal battles and emotional upheaval, but I was ready. Emily had underestimated my resilience, and now it was time for her to face the consequences of her choices. The following morning dawned gray and overcast, mirroring the turmoil swirling inside me. I woke with a sense of purpose, knowing that today was the day I would begin dismantling the web of lies Emily had spun. My mind raced with strategies and contingencies, each step meticulously planned to ensure I remained several moves ahead. After a quick breakfast, I decided to consult with a trusted friend, Mark, who worked as a private investigator. Mark and I had bonded over years of friendship and mutual respect, and I knew I could count on him to handle this delicate situation with the utmost professionalism. I met Mark at our favorite coffee shop, a quiet place where we could speak without prying ears. As I recounted the events of the past few days, his expression shifted from concern to determination. Mark, I need your help to gather more evidence against Emily and Vincent. This isn't just about infidelity anymore. There's financial sabotage involved, I explained, handing him a folder filled with the documents I compiled. Mark nodded, flipping through the papers with a practiced eye. You've done a great job so far. I'll see what I can dig up on Vincent Marino. He's not exactly the most reputable figure in town. His assurance provided a small measure of comfort. With Mark on my side, I felt more confident about exposing the truth. As he left to begin his investigation, I returned home with a renewed sense of determination. Back at the house, Emily's defiance lingered in the air like a stubborn fog. She continued her daily facade of indifference, dismissing my attempts at reconciliation with biting sarcasm and blatant disrespect. Her attitude was a constant reminder of the betrayal I had endured, fueling my resolve to see this through. Days turned into weeks as Mark worked tirelessly, uncovering more layers of the deception. It became clear that Vincent Marino was deeply entrenched in illicit activities, using the casino as a front for money laundering and other shady dealings. Emily's involvement went beyond a mere affair. She was complicit in Vincent's schemes, jeopardizing not only our marriage, but also our financial stability. One evening, Mark called with a breakthrough. I found something significant. Vincent Marino has been funneling large sums of money through offshore accounts, and Emily was instrumental in setting up the transactions. There's enough evidence to press charges for both financial fraud and marital misconduct. The weight of his words sank in, but instead of feeling defeated, I felt a surge of vindication. This was the confirmation I needed to move forward with absolute certainty. Emily's actions were not only a personal betrayal, but also a legal transgression that would leave her exposed and vulnerable. Armed with this new information, I began preparing my case. I hired a reputable attorney who specialized in both divorce and criminal law, ensuring that every aspect of Emily's wrongdoing would be thoroughly addressed in court. The legal battle ahead promised to be arduous, but I was ready to face it head-on. Throughout this period, my emotional state was a complex tapestry of anger, sadness, and unwavering confidence. There were moments when the pain of betrayal threatened to overwhelm me, but I clung to the belief that I could emerge stronger and more resilient. Every step I took was a testament to my determination to reclaim my life and protect what was rightfully mine. Meanwhile, Emily's behavior grew increasingly erratic. She oscillated between outright hostility and manipulative attempts to sway me back to her side. Her lies became more elaborate, trying to paint herself as the victim and me as the unreasonable spouse. But I saw through her facade, recognizing the tactics she employed to mask her true intentions. One afternoon, as I reviewed the latest evidence Mark had provided, I discovered an unexpected twist, a hidden correspondence between Emily and Vincent that hinted at a deeper, more sinister plan. It appeared they had intended to sever ties abruptly once our joint accounts were drained, ensuring that their entanglement would remain undisputed and unchallenged. This revelation added a new layer to the conspiracy, highlighting the premeditated nature of their deceit. It wasn't a spontaneous affair fueled by passion. It was a calculated scheme designed to dismantle our marriage and secure their financial gains without any repercussions. Armed with this knowledge, I felt an even greater sense of purpose. The final pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and there was no turning back. Emily had underestimated my resilience and underestimated the lengths I would go to ensure justice was served. As the days progressed, the tension between us reached a boiling point. Emily's attempts to manipulate the narrative only strengthened my resolve. The days that followed our intense confrontation were a blur of strategic planning and relentless determination. I immersed myself in the evidence Mark had uncovered, each document and piece of information another brick in the foundation of my plan to expose Emily and Vincent Marino. My confidence was unwavering. I knew that with every step I took, I was one move closer to reclaiming my life. Emily's behavior continued to deteriorate. She oscillated between blatant hostility and manipulative charm, trying desperately to sway me back to her side. Her lies became more intricate, each one designed to confuse and deceive. She would accuse me of overreacting, claiming that I was the one destroying our marriage, all while her actions screamed the opposite. Her attempts to gaslight me only reinforced my resolve to see her for who she truly was. One evening, as I reviewed the latest findings from Mark, a new twist emerged. Among the encrypted files was a series of emails between Emily and Vincent that hinted at a larger, more sinister scheme. It appeared they had planned to manipulate not only our finances, but also our social circles. They had been spreading false rumors about me, painting me as an unfaithful and irresponsible husband to isolate me from friends and family. This revelation was the tipping point. Their betrayal was deeper and more calculated than I had ever imagined. Emotionally, the weight of their deceit was heavy, but my confidence remained intact. I channeled my anger into meticulous preparation, ensuring that every piece of evidence was irrefutable. I knew that exposing their actions would not only vindicate me, but also protect others from falling victim to their manipulations. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, I decided it was time to take the next step. I began reaching out to mutual friends and acquaintances, discreetly sharing the evidence I had gathered. Their reactions were a mix of shock and disbelief, but as I presented the facts, their support solidified. It was clear that Emily had been adept at hiding her true nature, but the truth was now impossible to conceal. One afternoon, I received a call from Lisa, a close friend who had always been a confidant. Her voice trembled with emotion as she shared her own suspicions about Emily's behavior. "I've noticed how she's been acting lately," Lisa confessed. "She's been distant, and I saw her meeting with Vincent a few times. I didn't want to believe it, but now I'm not so sure." Her confirmation was invaluable. It not only reinforced the validity of my findings, but also expanded the network of those who could potentially support my case. With a stronger coalition behind me, I felt more empowered than ever to proceed. Meanwhile, Emily's facade began to crack under the mounting pressure. Her once impeccable demeanor was now marred by paranoia and desperation. She became increasingly erratic, lashing out at minor inconveniences and projecting her guilt onto me. Her attempts to manipulate the narrative only served to highlight her true colors, turning even the most skeptical observers firmly against her. As the legal processes began to unfold, I found myself navigating a labyrinth of court dates, legal jargon, and strategic maneuvers. My attorney was exceptional, guiding me through each step with expertise and unwavering support. Together, we built a formidable case, ensuring that every aspect of Emily's deceit was meticulously documented and presented. The emotional toll was significant, but my confidence never wavered. I had always believed in my ability to overcome challenges, and this ordeal was no different. Each setback was met with renewed determination, each obstacle a mere stepping stone toward the ultimate goal of justice and closure. One evening, as I sat in my study poring over the final details of the divorce papers, Emily made one last attempt to regain control. She confronted me with a veneer of false vulnerability, tears welling in her eyes, as she pleaded for another chance. Her facade was transparent, her manipulative tactics laid bare for all to see. "You're making a huge mistake," she cried, her voice cracking with feigned sorrow. "We can work this out. I love you." I looked into her eyes, seeing the desperation and deceit intertwined. "Love isn't built on lies and betrayal, Emily. It's time to move on." With those words, I knew there was no turning back. The final pieces of my plan were in place, and it was time to execute them. Serving her with the divorce papers was not just an act of finality, but a declaration of my reclaiming of self-worth and dignity. As I prepared to take that decisive step, a sense of calm washed over me. The storm of betrayal and deceit had been fierce, but I had weathered it with unwavering confidence and resilience. The path ahead was clear, and I was ready to embrace the new beginning that awaited me. The morning sun streamed through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the house that now felt like a battleground. I woke with a sense of purpose, the events of the past weeks fueling my determination. Every piece of evidence, every strategic move had led to this moment, the culmination of my fight for truth and justice. After a quick breakfast, I reviewed the final drafts of the divorce papers with my attorney. Each clause was meticulously crafted to ensure that Emily and Vincent would face the full extent of legal repercussions for their actions. This wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about dismantling the empire of deceit they had built together. With everything in order, I decided it was time to take the decisive step. I called Mark, my trusted private investigator, to confirm that there were no loose ends left unchecked. His thoroughness had been invaluable, and I wanted to ensure that our case was airtight. "Mark, everything looks solid on your end?" I asked, my voice steady. He responded affirmatively, assuring me that any additional information he could uncover had already been handed over. His support had been unwavering, and knowing that he had my back provided an extra layer of confidence. Later that afternoon, I prepared myself for the confrontation that awaited. Serving divorce papers was never easy, but this was different. This was about reclaiming my life from the ashes of betrayal. I dressed sharply, exuding the confidence that had been my cornerstone throughout this ordeal. I arrived at our home, the place that had once been a sanctuary, but had now become the arena for our final showdown. Emily was lounging on the living room couch, her demeanor as arrogant and dismissive as ever. She glanced up as I entered, her eyes meeting mine with a mixture of defiance and resignation. "Well, if it isn't the prodigal husband," she sneered, her tone dripping with contempt. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" I took a deep breath, holding the divorce papers firmly in my hand. "Emily, it's over. I've served you with the divorce papers." Her reaction was instantaneous. Anger flared in her eyes as she lunged forward, trying to snatch the documents from my grasp. But I stood my ground, refusing to be intimidated. "Don't try to take them. I've been more than fair." She pushed past me, her voice rising. "You think you can just walk away? After everything we've been through?" I shook my head, my confidence unwavering. "No, Emily. This isn't about walking away. It's about holding you accountable for your actions. You betrayed our marriage, and now you'll face the consequences." Her facade began to crack, revealing the insecurity and desperation beneath. "You're making a huge mistake," she cried, her voice trembling with a mix of rage and fear. "I won't let you ruin me." I met her gaze, unflinching. "You brought this upon yourself. It's time to face the truth." As the reality of the situation settled in, I felt a sense of liberation. The weight of betrayal was still there, but it was overshadowed by the strength and confidence I had cultivated throughout this journey. Serving her with the divorce papers was more than a legal action. It was a declaration of my resilience and my refusal to be defined by her deceit. That evening, I sat down with my attorney to finalize the legal proceedings. We discussed the best strategies to ensure that Emily and Vincent couldn't escape the repercussions of their actions. This was my moment to ensure that justice was served, not just for me, but for anyone else who might fall victim to their manipulations. As the days progressed, the news of our divorce became the talk of the town. Emily had always been the life of any gathering, but now her reputation was tarnished. Friends and acquaintances, once loyal, began to distance themselves, swayed by the evidence of her betrayal and Vincent's shady dealings. But amidst the chaos, I remained steadfast. My emotional state was a complex mix of satisfaction and sorrow. While part of me mourned the loss of what we once had, the other part reveled in the justice that was finally being served. I had navigated the storm with confidence, turning the tide in my favor. One unexpected twist emerged when I received a call from a former employee of Marino's casino. They had come forward with additional evidence of Vincent's illicit activities, further strengthening our case. This revelation not only solidified the legal battle, but also exposed the full extent of Vincent's corruption. With this new information, the legal proceedings gained momentum. The court case became a public spectacle, shedding light on the dark underbelly of Marino's casino and the lengths Emily and Vincent had gone to manipulate and deceive. Their once impenetrable facade was now exposed for all to see, and the community's support for me grew stronger. Throughout this tumultuous period, my confidence remained unshaken. I had faced betrayal head-on, armed with evidence and unwavering resolve. Each legal victory was a testament to my strength, and each revelation a step closer to reclaiming my life. As I prepared for the next phase of the legal battle, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. The final gambit was approaching, and I was ready to see this through to the very end. Revenge wasn't just about retribution. It was about restoring my dignity and ensuring that Emily and Vincent could never hurt me, or anyone else, again. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as the day of the hearing arrived. Friends, family, and even some curious strangers had gathered, eager to witness the unraveling of Emily and Vincent Marino's carefully constructed facade. The media had caught wind of the scandal, and now, every move I made was under scrutiny. I arrived early, dressed in a sharp suit that exuded confidence. My attorney, Sarah Thompson, was already there, reviewing our case one last time. Her professionalism and expertise had been invaluable throughout this ordeal, and I trusted her implicitly to guide us through the legal labyrinth ahead. Emily was already present, her demeanor a mix of defiance and desperation. She stood by the entrance, her eyes darting nervously around the room, searching for allies among the onlookers. Vincent Marino, however, was conspicuously absent, his absence a silent testament to the unraveling of their alliance. As the judge entered, the room fell silent. Sarah and I took our seats, the gravity of the situation pressing down on me. This was more than just a legal battle. It was a showdown between truth and deception, integrity and betrayal. The proceedings began with Sarah presenting our meticulously gathered evidence. She methodically laid out the financial transactions, the encrypted communications, and the testimonies from Mark and other witnesses. Each piece of evidence was a nail in the coffin of Emily and Vincent's deceitful empire. Emily, refusing to go quietly, took the stand. Her testimony was a masterclass in manipulation. She attempted to downplay her involvement, painting herself as a victim of circumstance and Vincent as the mastermind. Her lies were elaborate, but the weight of our evidence made them increasingly difficult to sustain. When Vincent Marino finally appeared in court, escorted by a team of stern-looking attorneys, the room erupted in whispers. His presence added a new layer of complexity to the case, transforming it from a personal betrayal into a broader indictment of corruption and exploitation. Cross-examining Vincent was Sarah's forte. She deftly dismantled his arguments, exposing his role in the financial sabotage and his exploitation of Emily. Vincent's attempts to shift blame were futile against the mountain of evidence we had amassed. Throughout the day, my emotional state was a whirlwind. Anxiety and anger surged within me, but my confidence remained steadfast. I had prepared for this moment, and I was determined to see it through to the end. Every question Sarah posed, every objection she raised, was a step closer to justice. As the day wore on, the tide began to turn in our favor. Witness after witness corroborated our story, painting a vivid picture of deceit and manipulation. Emily's facade of the perfect wife crumbled under the relentless pressure of the truth. In a dramatic twist, a key witness came forward, one of Vincent's former associates, who had turned whistleblower. Their testimony provided the final piece of the puzzle, linking Vincent directly to the financial malfeasance and solidifying our case against both him and Emily. By the end of the hearing, it was clear that justice was on our side. The judge took a moment to address the court, acknowledging the severity of the crimes committed by Emily and Vincent. The room held its breath as the final verdict was delivered. We find the defendant, Emily Thompson, guilty of financial fraud, deceit, and willful obstruction of justice. Additionally, we acknowledge the involvement of Vincent Marino in these illicit activities. Appropriate legal actions will be pursued accordingly. Relief and vindication washed over me as the gavel struck, sealing their fate. Emily's face contorted with rage and disbelief, while Vincent's expression was a mix of resignation and anger. Their reign of deception had finally come to an end. As the courtroom began to empty, Sarah approached me with a reassuring smile. "You did it. Justice has been served." I nodded, feeling a profound sense of closure. The emotional roller coaster of the past months had tested me in ways I never imagined, but my confidence had remained unshaken. I had faced betrayal head-on and emerged victorious, reclaiming not only my life but also my self-worth. The path ahead was still uncertain, but I was ready to embrace it with the same confidence and determination that had carried me through the storm. The courtroom victory still lingered in my mind as I stepped out into the bright morning sunlight. The verdict against Emily and Vincent Marino was a monumental achievement, but it was only the beginning of a long road to healing and rebuilding. As I walked to my car, a sense of relief washed over me, tempered by the lingering shadows of betrayal and loss. Returning home felt surreal. The house, once a symbol of our shared dreams, now stood as a silent witness to the end of our tumultuous marriage. I took a deep breath, allowing myself a moment to process the enormity of what had transpired. The legal battle was over, but the emotional scars would take time to heal. That evening, I decided to throw a small gathering at home, inviting close friends and family who had stood by me throughout the ordeal. It was a gesture of gratitude, a way to reconnect and find solace in the support of those who truly mattered. As I prepared for the evening, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was my chance to move forward, to embrace a future unmarred by deceit. The guests arrived with warm smiles and heartfelt congratulations. Conversations flowed effortlessly, and laughter filled the rooms that had once echoed with tension and conflict. I felt a sense of normalcy returning, a stark contrast to the chaos of the past months. Amidst the camaraderie, I found moments of quiet reflection, acknowledging the resilience that had carried me through the darkest times. However, peace was short-lived. A week after the court ruling, an unexpected call from Mark, my trusted private investigator, shattered the fragile calm I had begun to embrace. His voice was tense, urgency palpable in his words. "We've got a problem. There's more to Vincent Marino than we initially uncovered." Intrigued and concerned, I arranged to meet Mark at his office. As I entered, the familiar scent of leather and paper greeted me, a stark contrast to the sterile environment of the courthouse. Mark looked up from his desk, his expression grim. "I've been digging deeper into Marino's operations, and what I have found is alarming. It seems Vincent was involved in a much larger network, something that goes beyond money laundering and extends into organized crime." My heart raced as I absorbed his words. "What does that mean for us?" Mark leaned forward, his eyes meeting mine, with a mix of determination and concern. "It means that Emily and Vincent were just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole network that was leveraging Marino's casino as a hub for illegal activities. And now that we've exposed them, there's a chance they're trying to cover their tracks or even retaliate." A chill ran down my spine. The victory I had celebrated was now overshadowed by a new, more sinister threat. "What should we do?" Mark handed me a folder filled with detailed reports and photographs. "I've compiled everything we've found so far. I recommend increasing security and staying vigilant. If they're aware that their operations have been exposed, they might target you to eliminate any loose ends." As I scanned the documents, the full extent of Vincent's criminal empire became clear. The casino was a facade, a front for trafficking, gambling on the black market, and other illicit ventures. Emily's involvement had been more than just financial sabotage. She was entangled in their operations, willingly or under duress. The realization that their betrayal was part of something much larger was both terrifying and motivating. My confidence, though shaken by the new threat, remained intact. I knew that retreating was not an option. Instead, I had to confront this new challenge head-on, just as I had faced Emily and Vincent before. Over the next few days, I took Mark's advice to heart. I enhanced the security systems at home, installed surveillance cameras, and kept a low profile. Despite the precautions, the sense of unease persisted, a constant reminder that the shadows of the past were not yet fully behind me. One evening, as I was reviewing the latest updates with Mark, a message popped up on my phone. It was an anonymous tip, leading me to a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of town. The message was brief. "If you want to know the truth, come alone." My pulse quickened. This could be a trap, but it could also be the breakthrough we needed. After discussing it with Mark, we agreed that it was worth investigating, albeit with extreme caution. I decided to go alone, relying on my confidence and instincts to navigate whatever lay ahead. Under the cover of darkness, I drove to the location, the warehouse looming ominously against the night sky. The air was thick with tension as I approached, every step measured and deliberate. Taking a deep breath, I entered, the door creaking ominously behind me. Inside, the space was dimly lit, shadows dancing across the walls. At the center stood a figure cloaked in darkness. "Are you here for answers?" the voice asked, echoing through the vast space. I stepped forward, my heart pounding but my resolve unshaken. "Yes. What do you know about Vincent Marino and his operations?" The figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face, one of Vincent's former associates, someone I hadn't expected to see. "Vincent isn't the only one involved. There's a network, deeply entrenched, and they've been watching you since the court case. They're not just retaliating, they're planning something big." Before I could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed outside the warehouse. Panic surged through me, but I maintained my composure. "What do you want from me?" The informant handed me a USB drive. "This contains everything you need to bring them down. But be careful. They're dangerous and won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who stands in their way." As the footsteps grew louder, I knew it was time to leave. Grabbing the USB, I made my way to the exit, the weight of the information pressing heavily on me. Stepping outside, I saw a black van approaching, its windows tinted. Adrenaline surged as I realized the gravity of the situation. Mark was waiting for me, his expression serious. "Did you get it?" I nodded, handing him the USB. "Let's hope this is the key to ending this once and for all." As we drove away, the van accelerating behind us, I couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of determination. The battle was far from over, but with each twist and turn, my confidence only grew stronger. I was no longer just a victim of betrayal. I was an active player in dismantling a dangerous network that had threatened everything I held dear. The USB drive Mark handed me that night was more than just a collection of data. It was a Pandora's box. As we sped away from the warehouse, the gravity of the situation settled in. Vincent Marino's criminal network was far more extensive and dangerous than I had initially imagined. My mind raced with the implications of this newfound information, but my confidence remained unshaken. I had faced betrayal before, and I was prepared to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. Back at home, Mark and I pored over the contents of the USB. The files revealed a tangled web of illegal activities, money laundering, illicit gambling rings, and even connections to organized crime syndicates operating beyond our city's borders. Each document, each photograph, was a piece of the puzzle that could bring down Vincent and his associates once and for all. "We need to be strategic," Mark said, his voice steady despite the tension. "This isn't just about Emily and Vincent anymore. We're dealing with a much larger operation." I nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. "We can't go to the authorities just yet. If they find out we've uncovered their operations, they'll know we're onto them." Mark agreed, and we devised a plan to gather more evidence without drawing attention to ourselves. We started discreetly contacting former employees, suppliers, and anyone who might have information about Marino's casino and its illicit activities. Each conversation was a step closer to dismantling the empire they had built. Days turned into weeks as we meticulously built our case. The deeper we delved, the more dangerous the situation became. Anonymous threats began to surface, cryptic messages warning me to back off or face the consequences. The tension at home was palpable, but I refused to let fear undermine my resolve. My confidence, the very trait that had sustained me through Emily's betrayal, now propelled me forward in this new battle. One evening, as I was reviewing the latest batch of documents, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was Mark. "Jake, you need to see this," he said urgently. "We've got confirmation that Vincent is planning something big. A major shipment is arriving tonight, something that could blow their entire operation wide open." My heart pounded. This was the breakthrough we needed. "Where is it?" Mark provided the coordinates of an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. "We need to intercept it before it arrives. This could be our chance to gather irrefutable evidence." I took a deep breath, the adrenaline surging through me. "I'll handle it. Meet me there in an hour." As I prepared for the mission, a mix of excitement and apprehension coursed through me. This was it, the moment where all our efforts would either pay off or lead to our undoing. I dressed in dark, inconspicuous clothing, ensuring that I could blend into the shadows as we approached the warehouse. Mark arrived punctually, a silent nod passing between us as we set out. The drive was tense, the city's lights fading behind us as we approached the designated location. The warehouse loomed ahead, its windows dark and foreboding. We parked a safe distance away, then proceeded on foot, moving with purpose and caution. As we neared the entrance, voices and the sound of crates being moved confirmed that the shipment was imminent. We positioned ourselves strategically, ready to document everything without being detected. The minutes felt like hours, each second stretching the tension to its limit. Suddenly, a vehicle pulled up, and a group of men began unloading boxes from a large truck. Among them, I spotted Vincent Marino himself, flanked by several of his most trusted associates. My heart sank at the sight. This was the man who had caused so much turmoil in my life. Mark gestured for me to stay focused. "Remember, our priority is to gather evidence. Don't engage unless absolutely necessary." We watched as Vincent directed the operations, his demeanor cold and calculated. It was clear that he was orchestrating something significant, something that could have far-reaching consequences. As the shipment neared completion, a sense of urgency filled the air. Just as we were about to begin recording, one of Vincent's associates turned in our direction. My pulse quickened, and instinctively, I reached for my concealed camera. The man approached, suspicion etched on his face. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his tone harsh. Mark and I exchanged a quick glance, the situation escalating rapidly. Thinking on my feet, I kept my voice steady. "We were just passing by and noticed some unusual activity. Thought we'd check it out." His eyes narrowed, scanning us intently. "You're not supposed to be here. Get out before you get hurt." Without warning, he signaled to his team, and chaos erupted. A scuffle ensued as the men advanced, their intentions clear. Adrenaline surged through me, and I fought back fiercely, managing to fend off one attacker while Mark struggled against another. The scuffle was brief but intense, leaving us bruised and battered but alive. As we retreated to safety, the gravity of what had just transpired hit me. We had come perilously close to being caught, and the threats were no longer empty words. The stakes were higher than ever, but so was my determination. This was no longer just about revenge or personal betrayal. It was about taking down a criminal empire that threatened countless lives. Back at home, nursing our wounds, Mark and I reviewed the footage we had managed to capture. Despite the disruption, we had enough evidence to expose Vincent's operations comprehensively. The risks were immense, but the potential rewards, justice, and the dismantling of a dangerous network were worth it. The scars from our last confrontation still throbbed beneath my skin as I awoke to the sound of rain tapping against the window pane. Despite the lingering pain from the scuffle with Vincent's associates, my resolve had never been stronger. Emily's deceit had propelled me into a shadowy world I never knew existed, but I was determined to navigate it with the same confidence that had carried me through our marriage. Mark and I spent the previous night piecing together the footage from the warehouse. Every frame was a testament to the lengths Vincent would go to protect his empire. The evidence we had was substantial, but we both knew that to truly dismantle his operations, we needed more. The anonymous tip and the USB drive had opened doors to a labyrinth of corruption, but the deeper we dug, the more dangerous the path became. That morning, I decided to reach out to an old friend, Laura, who had connections in law enforcement. Laura had always been someone I could trust implicitly, and her insights could provide the leverage we needed. After a quick breakfast, I dialed her number, hoping she would understand the gravity of my situation. "Hey, Laura. It's Jake," I began, keeping my tone steady. "I need your help with something serious." Her voice was immediate and concerned. "Jake? What's going on? You sound tense." I took a deep breath, outlining the situation with Emily's affair, the evidence against Vincent, and the emerging criminal network. Laura listened intently, her silence encouraging me to continue. "Jake, this sounds beyond anything you should handle alone. If what you're saying is true, you're dealing with dangerous people. You need to involve the authorities." I paused, considering her advice. "That's the thing, Laura. If they find out we've uncovered their operations, they'll know we're onto them. I need a way to expose them without tipping them off." There was a brief moment of silence before Laura responded. "I might have a way. There's an undercover task force that specializes in organized crime. I can introduce you to them discreetly. They can help gather more evidence and provide protection." Relief washed over me. "Thank you, Laura. I knew I could count on you." Arrangements were made, and within days, I found myself meeting with Agent Ramirez, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for taking down high-profile criminals. His no-nonsense demeanor and sharp intellect immediately put me at ease. "Jake, I've reviewed the information you provided," Ramirez began, leaning forward in his chair. "What you're dealing with is significant. Marino's network is extensive, and they're deeply entrenched. We need to proceed with caution." I nodded, feeling the weight of our mission settle upon me. "I'm ready to do whatever it takes to bring them down." Ramirez outlined a plan that involved covert operations, additional surveillance, and strategic leaks to the media to ensure public awareness without directly alerting Vincent and his associates. It was a delicate balance, but with their expertise and my evidence, we stood a fighting chance. Meanwhile, Emily's behavior continued to deteriorate. Our interactions were increasingly fraught with hostility and manipulation. She seemed to relish the chaos she had created, throwing out more lies and accusations to divert attention from her own actions. One evening, as I returned home from a meeting with Ramirez, I found Emily sprawled on the couch, her expression one of feigned vulnerability. "Jake, can we talk?" she asked, her tone dripping with insincerity. I sighed, the exhaustion from the ongoing battle etched on my face. "What is it now, Emily?" She looked up, her eyes flashing with anger. "I just want to understand why you're treating me like this. After everything we've been through, this is how you repay me?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "You betrayed our marriage, Emily. You cheated on me and involved yourself in criminal activities. I'm not going to let you destroy my life any further." Her laughter was bitter and hollow. "Destroy your life? I've given you everything. Don't act like a victim now." Her dismissive attitude infuriated me, but I remained composed. "This isn't about me being a victim. It's about holding you accountable for your actions. You left me no choice." She stood abruptly, her posture aggressive. "You think you're so righteous, don't you? Always the perfect husband, the the successful man. Well, let me tell you, life isn't fair. I shook my head, refusing to engage in her tirade. Life may not be fair, but it's about how you respond to adversity. You chose a path of deceit and manipulation, and now you have to face the consequences. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her to stew in her own bitterness. The encounter reinforced my determination to see this through, no matter the personal cost. As the weeks progressed, the collaboration with Agent Ramirez and his task force began to yield results. We uncovered deeper layers of Marino's operations, including connections to international trafficking rings and money laundering schemes that span multiple countries. Each discovery was a piece of the puzzle that brought us closer to dismantling the network. However, with every step forward, the danger escalated. Threats became more frequent and explicit, serving as stark reminders that we were dealing with ruthless individuals who would stop at nothing to protect their interests. The psychological toll was immense, but my confidence remained unshaken. I had already faced betrayal on a personal level, and this external threat only strengthened my resolve. One night, as I reviewed the latest intelligence reports, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Hesitant but curious, I answered. "Jake, it's Ramirez. We have a situation." Agent Ramirez's voice was tense. "We've identified a high-value target within Marino's network. It's time to take decisive action." I felt a surge of adrenaline. "What's the plan?" Ramirez outlined a coordinated strike that would involve simultaneous raids on key locations, including Marino's primary casino and several illicit fronts. The operation was risky, but it was the culmination of our painstaking efforts to gather irrefutable evidence. "We move at dawn," Ramirez concluded. "This is our chance to cripple their operations once and for all." As dawn broke, I prepared myself for the impending confrontation. Dressed in dark, inconspicuous clothing, I joined the team at the designated meeting point. The air was thick with anticipation and tension, each member of the task force focused and ready. The operation was swift and precise. Coordinated raids dismantled Marino's casino, seizing assets and arresting key figures within the network. The evidence we had collected proved invaluable, ensuring that there was no turning back for those involved. The media coverage was extensive, shining a light on the dark underbelly of Marino's empire and exposing the depths of corruption and deceit. Amidst the chaos, Vincent Marino was apprehended, his expression one of disbelief and rage. As he was led away in handcuffs, I felt a sense of vindication. The man who had manipulated and betrayed me was finally facing justice. With Marino's arrest, the immediate threat was neutralized, but the journey was far from over. There were still legal battles to fight, financial entanglements to untangle, and emotional wounds to heal. However, the dismantling of Marino's network was a significant victory, one that reaffirmed my confidence and resilience. In the aftermath, Emily attempted to regain some semblance of normalcy. She tried to manipulate situations to her advantage, trying to spin her narrative in a way that cast me as the aggressor. Her attempts were transparent, lacking the sophistication of her previous deceit. Friends and acquaintances, once swayed by her charm, now saw through her facade, their support for me unwavering. One afternoon, I decided it was time to confront Emily one final time. I invited her to meet at a neutral location, a quiet cafe where our tumultuous history could no longer cloud the conversation. As she arrived, her demeanor was different, less confident, more guarded. "Jake," she began, her tone brittle. "We need to talk." I nodded, maintaining my composure. "We do. This time, it's about closure." She looked down, fidgeting with her hands. "I know I messed up. I was selfish and I'm sorry." Her apology was hollow, lacking the sincerity one would expect after such profound betrayal. "Sorry doesn't fix what you did, Emily. You lied, cheated, and involved yourself in criminal activities. I trusted you, and you destroyed that trust." Tears welled in her eyes, but they didn't reach them. "I was unhappy, Jake. You never saw that." I took a deep breath, choosing to rise above her attempts to manipulate my emotions. "Maybe you were unhappy, but that doesn't give you the right to destroy our marriage and involve me in your schemes." It's time for us to go our separate ways.